My name is Maxwell, and I am a renowned psychologist. I have been married for many years and have led an enviable life with my wife, Evelyn, a respected university professor who is widely recognized for her academic achievements and teaching. We have always had a great relationship, supporting and encouraging each other, and have been recognized by others as a model couple. Over the past few years, our lives have been perfect, to say the least, as we have attended social events and conferences together, expanded our social circle, and made connections. We have been attending social events and conferences together, expanding our social circle and building up our network, and Evelyn's status in the academic world has risen, with her research published frequently in prestigious journals and highly acclaimed by her peers. My counseling career has also flourished, and I have helped countless people in emotional and psychological difficulties to get out of the darkness. Our family life is also very harmonious. Despite our busy schedules, we always find time for each other. We take walks together, chat, and share our lives and thoughts. We also often organize family gatherings and invite friends and relatives to our home. Looking back, those were some of the happiest, most carefree days of my life. Evelyn and I had a strong love and trust for each other, and together we built a perfect family with an enviable career and life. What I didn't realize at the time was that behind this seemingly perfect life, a crisis was brewing, and that Evelyn's changes, our estrangement, and the young writer named Theodore were the triggers for the tragedy of the marriage. If I had recognized these signs earlier, could I have avoided all the misery that followed? Or was there already an unbridgeable rift in our marriage that was covered by superficial happiness? Anyway, what happened next changed the course of my life and made me re-examine myself and the world. And it all started with Evelyn's unusual behavior. In retrospect, Evelyn's changes began about a year ago. At first, the changes were so subtle that they were almost imperceptible. She began to work more often staying late at school. She explained that the research workload for her new project was so heavy that it required more time commitment. As an academic, I certainly understood the importance of work, so I didn't think much of it. But little by little, I realized that Evelyn was becoming less and less devoted to her family. She often missed our family gatherings and even forgot our wedding anniversary. Whenever I questioned her about it, she always used the excuse that she was busy at work. Our communication and time together was diminishing. At the same time, I noticed that Evelyn was getting close to her colleague Theodore, a young and talented writer who had recently joined Evelyn's research team. On a random occasion, I saw them talking and laughing on campus, and Evelyn had a smile on her face that she hadn't seen in a long time. At that moment, a sense of foreboding came over me. I started watching Evelyn's every move. I noticed that Theodore's messages popped up on her cell phone screen from time to time, and when she replied, she avoided my eyes. Several times I tried to take a closer look at her cell phone, but she avoided me. Late one night, Evelyn's cell phone suddenly rang. I caught a glimpse of Theodore's name on the screen, and alarm bells went off. However, when I pressed, Evelyn was vague and said she was discussing something at work. My heart was full of doubts and uneasiness. On the one hand, I didn't want to trust my sharp intuition. On the other hand, Evelyn's unusual behavior didn't convince me. There was an invisible gap and suspicion between us, but I was never willing to break the window. I tried to numb myself with work and put all my energy into counseling. I took on more cases and often worked late into the night at the office. But no matter how much I tried to avoid it, the doubts in my heart were still lingering. I began to wonder if I was suffering from delusions of victimization, or if I was too sensitive and paranoid. As a psychologist, I know better than anyone the horror of paranoia. I tried to convince myself to believe in Evelyn and our marriage. But deep down inside, the foreboding feeling never went away. I knew that sooner or later, our marriage would come to an end. I must find out the truth, even if the truth may make me feel miserable. In this way, I quietly launched an investigation, trying to unravel the clouds of suspicion hanging over our marriage. In order to find out the truth, I decided to take action. I knew I couldn't do it alone and had to find someone I could trust to help me. I thought of my assistant, Scarlett, who was a very smart and loyal girl who was very supportive of my work and my life. I told her about my suspicions and Evelyn's erratic behavior, hoping to get her help. Scarlett was very understanding of my situation and said she would do everything she could to help me find out the truth. We agreed on a plan to start with Theodore and see if we could find anything between him and Evelyn. Over the next few weeks, Scarlett and I split up and secretly investigated Evelyn and Theodore's every move. We looked into Theodore's background, trying to figure out his weaknesses and weaknesses. At the same time, we set up eyes and ears in Evelyn's neighborhoods to keep tabs on her whereabouts. A breakthrough in our investigation came when Scarlett found out that Theodore often booked rooms at a hidden hotel that Evelyn had been seen visiting on several occasions. My heart was overwhelmed with anger and sadness, but I forced myself to stay calm and continue the investigation. We also hacked into Theodore's computer and found a large number of private emails between him and Evelyn. The emails were filled with explicit language and graphic photos that made me sick to my stomach. It turned out that where I couldn't see, my wife and this man had already staged a dirty affair. What broke my heart the most was that in one of her emails, Evelyn mentioned that she was tired and dissatisfied with our marriage. She complained that I was so focused on my work that I was ignoring her feelings. She said she found passion and excitement in Theodore, which was missing from our marriage. When I saw that, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I couldn't make any more excuses for Evelyn. The woman I loved, the wife I trusted, had stabbed me in the back, destroyed our marriage, and broken my heart. I felt so turned around, so angry. I wanted to run up to Evelyn and ask her why she was doing this to me. But reason told me that I had to calm down and not act impulsively. I had to find a way to preserve my dignity and not let Evelyn and Theodore get the better of me. At Scarlett's suggestion, I decided to gather more evidence for the confrontation. I knew that a thrilling confrontation was coming, and I had to be ready for it. I vowed to make my betrayer pay, even if it meant my happiness and my life. In this way, a shocking truth was gradually unveiled in front of me, and I didn't realize that it was just the beginning of a series of tragedies. Once I had hard evidence that Evelyn was cheating on me, I knew it was time to confront her. I chose to expose her publicly at a family gathering because I wanted all my friends and family to know who this woman really was. That day, we had many guests at our home, including Evelyn's parents. As usual, they praised us for being a model couple and envied our love and understanding. When I heard these compliments, I felt nothing but bitterness and anger. I looked at Evelyn's humble smile and wanted to expose her disguise on the spot. Finally, towards the end of the meal, I stood up, tapped my glass, and signaled for silence. I looked around the room, my eyes lingering on Evelyn's face for a moment before I spoke slowly. I said, "I have a shocking secret to disclose about our marriage and our family." I said, just when everyone thought we were in love and living happily ever after, I discovered a heartbreaking truth. I said, my wife Evelyn, the wife and mother of the world, was cheating on me behind my back. Evelyn's face turned white. She looked at me in disbelief. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't say a complete sentence. Evelyn's parents were even more dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their own ears. I ignored the guest comments and calmly opened my laptop and played the photos and intimate emails of Evelyn and Theodore's rendezvous in front of everyone. The explicit images and text made the guests gasp and cast a look of disdain at Evelyn. Evelyn panicked and tried to explain, incoherently, that it was just a normal exchange at work and that I had misunderstood. But no one believed her. The evidence was too strong for her to deny. I looked at Evelyn coldly and asked her why she did this to me and why she wanted to ruin our marriage. Evelyn was speechless, in tears, and lowered her head. I said, I used to love her so much and trust her so much, but she was so mean to me, treating our relationship like a child's play. Amidst the sighs of the guests, I announced that I was divorcing this woman and that it would be a clean break from now on. Evelyn heard this and fell to the floor, crying in pain. Her parents wanted to come forward to comfort her, but I scolded and stopped their footsteps. At that moment, my heart felt like a knife, and I couldn't bear to die. I thought we would grow old together, but in the blink of an eye, everything went up in smoke. I felt my heart was torn into two halves, half of it dripping blood, half of it roaring. I knew that the marriage had come to an end, and there was no way to save it. Next, I will face a long and difficult divorce lawsuit, have to deal with the division of property and damage to reputation. But those are no longer important. The important thing is, I want to let the betrayal of my people pay the price. In this way, I and Evelyn's feelings completely broken. We were once proud of the marriage also collapsed. However, this was only the beginning of the tragedy, and what awaited me next was more pain, confusion, and struggle. Our marriage came to an end after Evelyn's infidelity was publicly revealed at a family gathering. We began the long and painful process of divorce, which was one of the darkest and most painful periods of my life. At first, Evelyn tried to win me back, begging me to forgive her for her mistakes and give her a chance to start over. But my heart was completely dead, and I couldn't accept any more of her explanations or begging. In my opinion, she is a complete liar, cheated my feelings, betrayed our marriage vows. I could never trust her again and let her hurt me again. So, I took the plunge and filed for divorce. However, I had no idea that the process would be so difficult and painful, and Evelyn was so upset with my decision that she tried to obstruct the process and delay it in any way she could. She hired a team of lawyers to try to gain an advantage in the division of property. She even spread rumors that I had cold-shouldered her and driven her to desperation. I felt angry and helpless in the face of Evelyn's tactics. I had to spend a lot of time and energy dealing with legal matters, collecting evidence, and preparing for the trial. These complicated matters seriously affected my work and life, and made me physically and mentally exhausted. Sometimes, I even wondered if I had made the right decision to forgive Evelyn and continue the broken marriage. But every time I think of Evelyn's betrayal, the memories that hurt so much, I know I have no choice. I couldn't allow myself to continue living in a marriage built on lies and deceit. I had to free myself, even at the cost of great pain and loss. Scarlett was my greatest support and comfort during the divorce proceedings. Not only did she help me at work, dealing with all kinds of legal documents and financial issues, but she also cared for me emotionally to the best of her ability. Whenever I felt desperate and devastated, she was always by my side, chatting with me and encouraging me to persevere. Without her help, I don't know if I would have made it through that difficult time. Evelyn and I's divorce was finally finalized after several months of tug-of-war. The court ruled that we should share the joint property equally, and each of us should keep our premarital personal property. As for the kids, we don't have any, which saves us a lot of trouble. The moment the judge read the verdict, I breathed a sigh of relief. The nightmare was finally over and I was free. But there was no joy or relief in my heart, only endless exhaustion, sadness, and bewilderment. I knew that divorce was only the first step in solving the problem. Next, I have to face all kinds of injuries brought by Evelyn and Theodore, to face the gazes of pity or ridicule from my colleagues and friends, and to face the restart of my life. More importantly, I have to find a way out of the darkness of my mind and regain my confidence and hope in life. And deep down, there was a voice that told me it wasn't over. My hatred for Evelyn didn't diminish because of the divorce, but rather grew. I vowed that one day, I would make this woman taste the bitter fruit of betrayal and make her regret it. A plan for revenge was gradually taking shape in my mind. After the pain of divorce, my life was at an all-time low. I felt that I had been abandoned by the world and that my fate was playing tricks on me. My career and reputation, which I was once so proud of, seemed so insignificant in front of this marital tragedy. I was depressed all day long, and I lost all enthusiasm for life. But what keeps me going is my deep disappointment and anger at Evelyn and Theodore. I can't forgive them for their betrayal of me, and I can't forget the hurt they caused me. I hope that they will pay for their mistakes and taste the bitter fruits of their betrayal. So, I began to secretly investigate Evelyn and Theodore, hoping to find their weaknesses and strengths. It was a difficult and lengthy process that required a lot of time and effort, but I didn't hesitate. I believed that only when their mistakes were exposed to the world would they truly realize their faults. I decided to start with Theodore. As a young and talented writer, Theodore's main concern was his reputation and fame. Through my contacts, I found out what the publishing world was saying about Theodore. Some called his work cliched and plagiarized, while others questioned his character and pointed out that he lived an unruly life. I set out to investigate these rumors, hoping to find hard evidence. To my surprise, I discovered that some of Theodore's earlier works bore a striking resemblance to the works of others, and that there was a clear suspicion of plagiarism. I collected and organized this evidence and sent it anonymously to several literary magazines and newspapers. Theodore was accused of being a plagiarist, and his reputation was severely damaged. Publishers stopped working with him, literary events to which he had been invited were canceled, and Theodore's career hit a low point, as did his life. Next, I targeted Evelyn, who, as a college professor, cared most about her academic reputation and status. Through undercover investigation, I was surprised to find that some of Evelyn's papers were suspected of plagiarism. Some of the data and ideas she cited were strikingly similar to other people's research, but she did not cite the source. I summarized this evidence and submitted it anonymously to the university's academic council. The university took this seriously and launched a full investigation. In the end, Evelyn was found guilty of academic misconduct, her paper was retracted, her research project was stopped, and she even faced suspension. Evelyn's academic career was dealt a severe blow and her life was at a low ebb, as her years of hard work and effort were wiped out by a fluke. Looking at the two people who were once so proud of themselves, but now because of their own mistakes and reputation, the anger in my heart has finally been calmed a little. But I did not feel the expected pleasure, but there is an inexplicable emptiness and confusion. I began to doubt, do this is really meaningful, whether it is just wasting time, waste of life. Just as I was falling into deep self-doubt, an unexpected discovery made a dramatic reversal of the whole thing. As a result of my investigation and revelations, both Theodore and Evelyn were duly punished. Their careers and reputations hit rock bottom, and their lives were thrown into chaos. Seeing their miserable situation, I thought I would feel happy and relieved, but I realized that there was more emptiness and confusion in my heart. The satisfaction brought by revenge was gone in a flash, replaced by endless exhaustion and anxiety. Just as I was beginning to re-examine what I had done, an unexpected discovery took a dramatic turn. It was late one night, when I was organizing Evelyn's belongings, I accidentally found a long-sealed diary. Out of curiosity, I opened the diary and saw a shocking truth about Evelyn's betrayal. It turns out that Evelyn wasn't enjoying her affair with Theodore as much as I thought she was. Instead, she was plagued by guilt and remorse. In her diary, she made numerous references to the guilt she felt for me, and she apologized for our marriage. She said she loved me and never wanted to hurt me. It was only under the pressure and temptation of life that she had a moment of weakness and made a wrong choice. Evelyn also mentioned in her diary that there were reasons why she came to be with Theodore and why there were problems in our marriage. She wrote that during the long years of our marriage, we had grown apart. I was so focused on my career that I neglected her feelings. We seldom communicated, not to mention the intimacy of the past. She felt lonely and helpless, and Theodore's presence provided an outlet for her to talk and comfort her. Reading the remorse and sorrow that flowed between the lines, a strong sense of guilt suddenly welled up in my heart. I realized that I was also to blame for the failure of the marriage. It was my neglect of Evelyn's feelings, my failure to provide her with sufficient love and support that caused her to stumble when she encountered temptation. If I could have put more effort into the marriage, if I could have communicated with her more and understood her, we might not have come to this stage. I also read in my diary that Evelyn tried to confess and apologize to me many times after Theodore's incident, but stopped because she didn't know how to speak. She knew that she had hurt me and betrayed our marriage, but she was afraid that I wouldn't be able to forgive her, so she chose to hide it. I never gave her a chance to confess, but only thought of revenge. This accidental discovery shook my resolve for revenge. I began to reflect on my own behavior, and I asked myself if I could really find inner peace by hurting others to make up for my own trauma. I began to believe that perhaps forgiveness and understanding are the best way to resolve hatred and regain a new life. But at the same time, I also realized that it was not easy to truly forgive Evelyn and accept this terrible past. The hurt of betrayal is so deep that even after knowing the truth, my heart is still full of conflicts and struggles. I don't know if we can start over after all this. I'm not sure if I have enough courage and determination to face the wounds in my heart and repair this broken relationship. After a long period of contemplation and agonizing, I made up my mind to meet Evelyn in person and seek answers from her face to face. This time, I was not to blame, but to listen, not to hurt, but to understand. I knew it would be a difficult conversation, full of tears and grief. But I also understand that only by facing the past can I be redeemed. Only by forgiving others can I be free. And so it was, with a lot of misgivings and a faint glimmer of hope, that I walked toward this belated conversation, toward another crossroads in my life. With a lot of doubts and a little bit of hope, I went to Evelyn's place to seek answers from her in person. I knocked on her door, feeling uneasy and unsure of how to start this difficult conversation. Evelyn looked surprised when she opened the door and saw it was me. But the surprise was soon replaced by guilt and sadness. She invited me in, and we sat down in the living room, and there was a long silence. In the end, it was Evelyn who spoke first. She confessed to me the depth of her betrayal, and her tone was filled with remorse. She said that during our marriage, she often felt lonely and helpless. I was too focused on my own career and left out her feelings. We seldom communicated, not to mention the intimacy of the past. She felt that our relationship was becoming more and more distant, and Theodore's presence provided her with an outlet for confession and solace. Listening to Evelyn's story, mixed emotions welled up in my heart. Anger, disappointment, guilt, and pity were all mixed together, leaving me at a loss. I realized that I was to blame for the failure of the marriage. It was my neglect of Evelyn's feelings, my failure to provide her with enough love and support that caused her to slip in the face of temptation. We talked openly and honestly about the problems in our marriage. Lack of communication, unwillingness to compromise, mutual neglect of each other's needs. Each problem, like a sharp knife, piercing my heart. We all realized that we were once so in love, but in time under the abrasion of drifting apart, and even to the point of no return. During this conversation, Evelyn also expressed her apologies to me. She felt deep regret and guilt for her betrayal. She sincerely apologized and asked for my forgiveness. She said that she never stopped loving me and never meant to really hurt me. She just lost her way and made a wrong choice. In the face of Evelyn's tears and remorse, I could not find peace in my heart for a long time. I remembered the diary and the grief that flowed between her lines. I realized that if we had given each other more understanding and tolerance in our marriage, and if we had faced our problems honestly instead of running away from them, we might not have come to this point. Finally, after a long silence, I told Evelyn that I forgave her. It wasn't an impulse, but a choice that came from my heart. I realized that forgiveness didn't mean that I could forget the pain or the past, but it meant that I was willing to give each other a chance to start over, to let go of the hatred, and to face the possibilities of the future together. We all know that to repair this broken relationship and rebuild trust in each other is not an overnight success. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes effort from both sides. But at least we took the first step. At least we have the courage to face the past, to seek redemption. Thus, with hopes for the future and blessings for each other, we concluded this belated conversation. My conversation with Evelyn left me in a state of uneasiness for a long time. Her confession and remorse touched the softest part of my heart. I began to really reflect on the marriage and my role in it. I realized that in the process of pursuing the so-called justice and fairness, I seemed to have lost myself and forgotten the true meaning of life. I remembered what my father had once told me: forgiving others is actually liberating yourself. At the time, I didn't think it was just an old man's cliche. But now, I truly understand the meaning of this saying. The reason why I was obsessed with revenge and hatred was because of the pain and disappointment in my heart. I tried to make up for my trauma by hurting others, not realizing that it would only make my soul suffer more. I began to try to let go of my hatred for Evelyn and Theodore, of my past. It wasn't easy. The pain was etched into my bones and had become a part of my life. But I realized that if I couldn't let go, I would never be truly free and liberated. I re-examined my life, my values and pursuits. I realized that in the process of pursuing career success and social status, I seemed to have neglected the more important things in life: love, forgiveness, and understanding. For the sake of the so-called dignity and face, I hurt the people closest to me and myself. I decided to make a change and start a new life. I quit my job, said goodbye to my familiar city, and came to an unfamiliar place. I wanted to reacquaint myself with a new environment and re-examine the meaning of life. In this quiet town, I began to learn to talk to my heart and to listen to my own voice. I tried meditation, yoga, and reading philosophy books to find peace of mind. Gradually, I felt that my inner wounds began to heal, and I felt that the pain and darkness of the past began to dissipate. I began to think about how I could truly forgive Evelyn and Theodore and myself. I realized that true forgiveness is not just a verbal statement, but a choice that comes from the heart. It requires me to let go of my ego and put myself in the other person's shoes. It requires me to accept human flaws and recognize that everyone makes mistakes. So, one fine morning, I wrote Evelyn a long letter. In it, I expressed my apologies to her for my shortcomings in the marriage. I told her that I forgave her for her betrayal as well as my own mistakes. I hoped that we could put the past behind us and start over, even if only as friends. After writing this letter, I felt a sense of relief that I had never felt before. It is as if a heavy burden has been lifted from my heart. I realized that by forgiving Evelyn, I am also forgiving myself. By letting others go, I am also letting myself go. After going through this emotional storm and completing the journey of self-redemption, I began to re-examine my life. I realized that my previous life, though seemingly glamorous, was actually full of vanity and emptiness. I was pursuing external achievements and recognition from others, but ignoring the true voice of my heart. I decided to make a change and start a new life. I sold my property in the city and moved to a quiet town. Here, without the hustle and bustle of the city, I was able to re-examine myself and explore the true meaning of life. I started to try something new in my life. I learned to meditate, sitting in the sunrise every morning and listening to my breath. I started to keep a diary to record my life, my feelings, and my growth. I made new friends from different backgrounds, but all with simple and pure hearts. Gradually, I found myself becoming more and more at peace. Those obsessions and resentments that used to bother me seemed to have gone away. I began to learn to be grateful for every experience in my life, whether it be laughter or tears. I realized that it is these experiences that have shaped me into the person I am today, making me a more mature and open-minded person. In the process, I also re-examined my career. I realized that although my previous job had given me a high social status and great rewards, it didn't really give me a sense of satisfaction. I wanted to do something more meaningful and helpful to others. So, I decided to take up the profession of psychology again, but this time, I was no longer limited to theoretical research and academic discussions. I began to apply my knowledge to help people who were also suffering from emotional trauma. I opened a free counseling room in my community to provide guidance to those who have lost their way and to brighten the hopes of those who are in trouble. Whenever I see a smile on the face of a counselor or hear a sincere thank you from them, I feel heartfelt relief and satisfaction. I realize that this is the life I really want, a simple but meaningful life. In my new life, I have gradually opened my heart and embraced love again. I met Sophie, a simple and kind girl. Her appearance, like a ray of sunshine, shone into my once closed heart. We were attracted to each other, sympathized with each other, and decided to spend the rest of our lives together. On the day of the wedding, I invited Evelyn, and when she showed up at the church, we exchanged a heartfelt smile. At that moment, all the past seemed to disappear, leaving behind only blessings and gratitude. I realized that it is because of that experience that I am who I am today, that I have a sense of life and an understanding of love. Standing next to Sophie, in front of my friends and family, I felt happier and more satisfied than ever. I knew that this was the beginning of a new life, a new beginning in life. I look forward to every day ahead, and I look forward to exploring more possibilities in life, hand in hand with my beloved. Looking back, I am grateful for the gift of life. Those suffering, those trials and tribulations are the gift of life to me, so that I learned to forgive, learned to love, also learned how to do a better person. I understand that the meaning of life is not in the end, but in the journey, not in the results, but in the process. Dear friends, if you are wandering at the crossroads of life, if you are plagued by past hurts, please believe that as long as you harbor hope, as long as you have the courage to change, life will always present a better possibility. As Heine said, the road traveled is always longer than imagined. Things are more difficult than expected, but as long as you insist on walking, hope and success are always waiting ahead. Let us walk hand in hand, embracing the challenges of life and the possibilities of the unknown. Let us dissolve hatred with love, dissolve pain with forgiveness, and light the way with hope. Dear friend, bless you and bless myself, and may we all continue to grow and progress in this marvelous journey of life, and finally arrive at the other side of happiness. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.